Okay, well, time to start working on the 525. This has got a little bit of a list going to it. I talked about it a little bit before, but I don't remember how much. It's getting a new clean grain or tailings elevator chain because this one, the links are starting to wear through. You can't really see. I'll show you when I finally get it out, but that chain's in rough shape. So I got that, which I got the new chain already assembled, the paddles on it, that whole thing's going on. It's getting new Walker crank bearings, which could, holy shit, were they smart? I think they were smart. I never noticed that before. Oh, hell yeah, white. Actually, I guess it'd be hell yeah cock shut, since technically this is a cock shut. They put puller lugs on them bearings. Oh, that's gonna make life so much easier. I was dreading pulling them things off of there, but that's pretty slick. So it's getting Walker crank bearings. It's getting the bearing blocks on the Walkers themselves. I need to replace the long traction belt because it's got, where's it at? Should be able to see it. Where's it at? Somewhere. Oh, right there. Right there. It's got that big split in it. And I think there's actually two of them. I think there's another one in it somewhere. So it's got getting a new long traction belt. And then my head drive belt has a couple battle scars in it. So I got one of those coming. Or I have that. I got all the parts for it. So, and then obviously it's got to get an oil change, and then I don't know if I'm going to do it here or see if I can take her over to my buddy's shop, but I got to drop the transmission out of it and see why it keeps popping out of third gear, because that's getting annoying. I'm hoping it's just something as simple as a busted detent spring. Or possibly a bent shift fork. You never. I'm hoping it's something stupid, basically, is what I'm going for. But, anyhow, that's basically the list for this thing. So, really, it shouldn't take too long. I hope to have everything. Well, I'll have everything done to it except the transmission by this weekend. Like I say, I don't know if I'm going to do that here or get over to a buddy's shop, so I'm doing it under roof. But anyway, my job for today, because I'm running out of daylight, is hopefully it goes easy as I'm gonna replace this elevator chain. So I'm going to get shit around, because what I gotta do is pop the drive belt loose, which is just a tensioner pulley that you slide up, and then run the head shaft back, and that'll detension the chain. And the master link, because I was already looking at this thing so I could put the new chain together, the master link is back in here somewhere, so I just got to roll it around by hand and get the master link out. So I am going to get the head all loosened up, get it detensioned, and I will catch you here. Okay, so got the master link undone, because being in an elevator, it's hard to get quick connect links apart, so they have an actual master link specifically for this job. This is the new chain, and unlike a lot of elevators where the paddles come around and draw up the bottom trough, they kind of did something a little interesting, and on this one it actually swings around and pulls up the top trough and throws. So I got the paddles with the links behind them, and the paddles cupped to pull up on the top. And if the plan works right, I can just pull the new chain in while I pull the bottom chain out, and it'll be nice because I'm pulling over the sprocket, so there's nothing for the new chain to catch on. So like I say, hopefully it'll just draw right in. So looks good on paper. pulling straight back's not gonna work. Oh, that's not bad. What a tangled up mess of crap. That old chain is definitely a lot sloppier than the new shit. Hopefully I'm gonna see some black here pretty quick. There it is. Okay, now I left everything long because obviously I didn't have the old chain out to know exactly how long I needed to make this thing, and the book doesn't tell you how many links exactly it is. It just says chain assembly, so I had to fudge it, but hopefully I'm definitely gonna have to knock some links out, but I'd rather have it too long than too short. Yeah, that old chain was pretty tired. Well, that is all buttoned up. I wonder if I've tensioned it a little too far. It was turning, now it's not. I have to back some tension off. But anyway, when I took the old chain out, it was almost out of slack adjustment, and I pushed it all the way back down. Now that this chain's in, it's pretty much all the way down. It has full adjustment in it. That's how much that old chain was stretched. And this is the old Master Link pin. I'd say she's made a couple roundy rounds. A little worn. And then this is the old chain. Most of the paddles are junk. That one's got a corner taken out of it. That one's got a corner taken out of it. That one's delaminating. And then there was, and now that I want to find it, I probably won't be able to, because I took a link out of this chain last year, which is how I knew it was getting so bad, because I couldn't tension it anymore. And there was actually lugs in the chain that wore so much. Well, that one right there is getting pretty paper thin, but there was the one I took out was almost wore through right here. You could see the link inside of it. Now I'm probably not going to be able to find find another one to show you, but regardless, this chain's junk. It was time to, after all them roundy rounds from 1968 until now, she's done her time. So anyway, that's scrap. And that's a good quitting point for today, other than I'm going to detension that chain a little bit before I forget. And tomorrow, probably start working on the walker blocks. Okay, so for starters, for some reason, I don't know why the hell I wasn't thinking. The reason I couldn't get that to roll over by hand was because I put the whole top end together, or back together, and all the belts were tight, and when I was trying to pull that over, I was trying to roll the whole combine over, and that ain't gonna work. So, why I wasn't thinking of that, I don't know, but that's what's going on there. So, today, I'm gonna get the walker bearings done. I did the rear crank yesterday. I got all the bearings, or all the bearing blocks in, and then I got the crank bearings themselves changed out, which that surprised the hell out of me. I got those off with a puller. Didn't have to heat them, nothing. Just shine or polish the end of the shaft up, got on them with a puller, and they pulled right off. I was kind of scared. So the back crank's done. So I figured I would get video of doing the fun one, which is the front crank. That's going to require some surgery. I'm going to pull the sibs out so that I can get in there. And I was hoping to go without, but it's going to make life easier, so I'm going to pull the grain pan, which ain't that big of a deal in all reality. It's 2 bolts. There are 2 bolts in the back and 2 bolts in the front, and the whole grain pan slides out. It takes like 5 minutes to get that grain pan out, so. And it's going to make life easier, so I'm going to do that. And then I'll be able to change them blocks. And then to get to the crank bearings, one of them is nice and easy. This one, ow, smacked my head. This one, all you got to do is loosen the traction belt, which has got to happen anyway because I got to change it. And you can get to that guy. The other one requires a little more surgery to get to. So this is the walker drive pulley. So I gotta pull. Yeah, I might be able to leave this screen, but at the very least, I gotta pull the tensioner off for the fan. So that's gonna be kind of a fun. This one's gonna be kind of fun. But as long as this comes off all right, and I should be able to sneak that pulley off of the hub without having to pull the chaff screen off the fan. And then it's just going to be a matter of if the pulley hub wants to be difficult, and then the bearing is back there. So, and this is the walker drive belt. That's why I got that off so I could roll the walkers over by hand. So yeah, that's the plan for today. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing gutted so I can get in there, and we'll start changing walker bearings. Well, this project went downhill real quick. Yeah. This is the front of the walkers that go underneath the rear concave. As you can see, that one was holding on by a wing and a prayer. This bottom piece is all that should be like down to here. It's all broke off and completely gone. This is cracked up to here. Obviously, this is where the walker bolts to the front crank. That's, you know, like that. And these two are structurally sound. There's a hunk of grate missing here and here, obviously. Which these two are very easily fixable. That one you can't do a whole lot with. That's too far gone. I don't know. I mean, you could fix it if it was just this con, but you got that, you can't fix that. I mean, you could try, but it'd probably break again because you're going to have to pour so much heat into it, welding patches in. And this would be, I got them laying in here backwards. This would be the left auger, middle, or not left auger, left walker, middle auger, walker. Why do I keep saying auger? Left walker, middle walker, right walker. So if you're looking from the back of the machine. And the reason that this one's broken out is actually probably most likely the result of something that I've actually known about since I bought this thing. But it's never really affected the operation, so never really took the time to fix it because it's going to be one hell of a project that's going to get fixed eventually, but not right now. If I can crawl my ass in here. Hold on, I'm stuck. I guess while I got it gutted, I'm going to rebuild my curtain. So apparently at some point this thing ate a rock and they busted out a hunk of the rear concave, and that walker would be laying right here. So apparently it threw the rock down, busted that concave out, and busted the grate out on that walker. And without that grate in there to support the rest of it, it was probably doing this, and it just over time broke out. Because somewhere in here, it must be around the front, I thought. Nope, the beater's fine. I could have swore there was a big dent in the beater too where it ate that rock, but... And there's supposed to be a bar all the way across the back here. That's missing too, but that's fairly common on these things. That's not that big of a deal. But to get the rear concave out of this thing is kind of a chore, and I've never had any issues with this thing thrashing, so I figured I would get to it eventually. Because what I'd like to do when I get the 8700 up and running, and actually it would take me finally building a shop to actually make it happen the way I want to, but eventually I want to pull this thing in and just gut it. Pull the cylinder, pull the beater, pull the concave, pull the walkers, pull the shoe pan, just pull everything out of the gut of this thing, and go through, find any thin spots, fix them, repaint the entire inside of the machine to protect it, fix that rear concave, put all new bearings in it, anything that I haven't replaced already, just make it new again, and basically go through and make this thing a brand new combine on the inside is what I want to do eventually, before something bad happens. Well, she's kind of forcing me into partially doing that now, because I can't run with that walker like that. I can't fix that walker. So I'm gonna have to find a straw walker, and I know a couple places I can look. But yeah. And like I say, while I'm in here, I must have just had that flat stock on there for weight. While I'm in here, I might as well just fix that thing. So I got some rubber belting over at the house that I got for another some rubber belting's an understatement. It's like 300 or 400 feet of it in a roll that I can make that out of, and I might as well replace the seal while I'm in here. So yeah, good times. I'm glad I started working on this thing early. Well, in case anybody ever wondered what a walker crank looks like out of a combine, that's what a little baby 3-walker crank looks like. I ended up having to take it out of the combine because I could not get this collar loose. This bearing is the only crank bearing that's been changed before, and I can tell you that because it's got blue dust shields on it. All the rest of them were painted green because all this crap was in the combine when it got painted at the factory. But whoever, Sasquatch must have put this bearing in, because whoever did it ran that collar home so hard that I couldn't get it to move in the combine. So, because I was going to start on this bearing, because this is the one on that side where there's nothing in the way, so it should have been nice and easy. Well, so much for that. So I ended up having to get this side off so that I can get the walker crank out, which turned into an hour-long project. Because that bearing didn't want to come off, and this one, unlike the back ones where they're in that cast holder with the puller lugs on it, these ones are flange bearings, and there's no way to get a puller behind it. The hub for the drive pulley, that thing came off like a dream. I almost spun the puller by hand, but that thing didn't want to cooperate. So I ended up having to take the torch and very gingerly, so that I didn't get into the crank, I scored both ends of the inner race to kind of relieve a little bit of stress and put some heat in it. And then I was trying to drive it off, hoping that I could beat on the crank and push it back. Well, then Dad suggested using the air hammer from the inside, because we got an air hammer and I never remember to use it. It's one of them tools that you don't need it till you need it, and you always forget you have it. Well, got on the inside with an air hammer, and like 3 hits and it popped loose, and I drove it almost all the way off the shaft from the inside. So anyway, that's what it took to get that bearing off. And now I'm hoping, I need this and I need this. I'm hoping that I can get that damn collar off, because the new bearings didn't come with collars for some reason. I don't know why you would sell a cam lock bearing and not sell new collars with it. But, and the other thing I was struggling, obviously I got that hole all beat out trying to get it to move, but I couldn't tell, because this had been changed before. Like, these are the rear walker bearings, which I'm glad I changed them, because I mean, you can't spin them by hand. I don't know how they didn't go out. But those bearings, since they've never been changed, you can look at the collar and see in the hole the punch marks where they drove them one way at the factory, and you just drive them the other way and they come off. Well, that one, since it had been changed, had punch marks on both sides, so I don't know which way they drove it to lock it. So, yeah. And these are the old walker bearings. That one's about broke in half. That one broke in half when I got it out. That one broke in half when I got it out. That one's about broke in half. So, yeah, it was obviously time to change walker bearings. Obviously, time to change walkers. I'm kind of disappointed in that. But anyhow, see if I can get this collar off. If I could even figure out which way they drove the damn thing. It doesn't appear that way. Oops. I'm half tempted to get on the stupid thing with a pipe wrench, honestly, because this is kind of ridiculous. I might do that. Because when you put these things together, friction is one of the most powerful forces in nature, and you do not have to hammer these things home till they won't stop, or till they stop turning. You get them, you want them snug so that they bite, but they don't need to, you don't need to run the damn things home. And when you do, this is what happens. You can't get the stupid things back apart. Kind of where you can see shaky cam, piss off the trolls. Son of a bitch! Now I ought to be able to get on that with a 3-jaw and just drag it off. Watch, the bearing's gonna... Yep, that would figure. The bearing's going to come right off without even hardly having to pull on it. That's always the way it goes. But that being said, everybody always talks about, oh, you can't be running old shit like that. You always got to work on it. Well, right now I'm working on it when there is absolutely no pressure to get it done in a certain amount of time, because I ain't going to need it for another at least 2.5 months. And B, like these walker bearings, other than this one, obviously this has been changed at some point, but the other 3 walker bearings been on this machine since 1968. These bearing blocks most likely been in this combine since 1968. You do this stuff now, I will never again in my lifetime have to do this to this machine. It's not going to happen. So this is preventative maintenance. This is stuff that you should be normally doing even on a new machine if you think that stuff's getting flaky. But anyhow, all I got to do now, get both ends of the shaft cleaned up, probably get that collar cleaned up, just kind of nasty. And it can go back in the machine. Front crank's back in. Unfortunately, the book does not give you any dimension as far as measuring from somewhere on the outside to get that thing centered. So basically what you got to do is get both bearings installed, leave the lock collars off, then get in here, and then off the side walls of the machine you measure basically from here to the side of the machine on both sides and get the crank center. Then you can go ahead and lock it down, which once the bearings are tight in the flanges, it doesn't actually move back and forth very easily. You got to tap it with a hammer. So you're not really going to move it installing the lock collars. So, but they turn really damn easy now. Before they had a bunch of drag in them. Well, obviously the backside, the bearings were just on the verge of locking up. And the front didn't actually turn that bad, but it turns a hell of a lot easier now. So, at least the crank bearings are in. And I got a hold of my uncle. I'm gonna go steal a walker out of his 545. And as long as it's good, I'm gonna use this walker to cut patches out of to fix those two. And I'd be willing to bet that that one out of his 545 is broke, just like these, because that's a real common problem on walker machines in general, especially these older ones. Is this section of walker right behind the cylinder that takes the most abuse from the beater throwing it down onto the walkers. It's pretty common to have that broke out. John Deere's are famous for it. I just last winter, or the winter before last, I just got done. Well, I didn't just get done. Obviously, it was pretty sure it was the winter before last. My buddy's John Deere 6600. I had to go through and patch all of his walkers because they were all busted. The grates were all busted out right through there in the front of the walkers. So, and I've seen the same thing on like the 303, 403, that series international. It's just, everybody should have beefed their walkers up right there in the front, and apparently they didn't. Running small grain and beans and stuff, you won't do it. Normally that's from corn, because especially when you're running dry corn and the cobs are hard, they come through that beater shaft right behind the cylinder, and that thing slaps them down, and it's like throwing baseballs at them. So that's normally what breaks those out, is running corn, which is what this machine did. It came new with a corn head, which is the corn head I got for it. So that would explain. That explains this. That somebody ran a rock into it. That's what happened there. So anyhow, and another note on these flange bearings for anybody that dinks with them. Generally, you follow the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey rule. When you're tightening the collar, you drive it right, and then when you loosen it, you know you got to drive it left. But not everybody does that, which is what leads to the situation like this, where it just leaves you wondering. But and then everything got anti-seize. The set screw got anti-seize, the bearing got anti-seize, there's anti-seize underneath the collar on the cam. So not that I'm ever going to have to change that bearing again, but if I do, it shouldn't turn into that big of an ordeal. And I don't know if I want to go get that walker now or wait till this afternoon when it cools off a bit. I might go ahead and change out that traction belt, because that's not going to be too bad of a job. and then that part will be done, and then all I got left to do is the walkers. So I might do that. Okay, so that's the new traction belt. That's the thrasher belt. I already swapped out. That's the head drive belt, which is this guy here. So what you got to do is pull or loosen the tension on the variable belt. Pull all 4 bolts out of the variable speed so you can push or pull it over and pick that end up. And you can fish, because the long belt rides in this groove, you can fish that out from behind there, which is this guy right here. And then you got to bring the belt, or get the belt saddle loose from underneath the thrasher drive pulley. Take the thrasher drive belt off because it's in front of the traction belt, and then the traction belt will come off. And since I had the thrasher belt off, you got to have that off to replace this, so that's why I did that already. But I already got that fished most of the way out of there, so I could do it one-handed. Well, I might have to go back up there. Which, the other thing you got to do is pull the quill support plate off of the bell housing. So that's the quill shaft that's got your thresher drive pulley and your traction drive pulley, which are all on one shaft, and then those are on a hub that bolts to the flywheel. And you got to pull that cover off, which when you do that, you're going to fight it a little bit because it's got 2 dowels, one here, and then it's piloted on the support bearing, so you're fighting 3 places. So best thing to do is just get a screwdriver and have a little bit of patience, and it'll rock off of there. Combines are like ogres and onions. They have layers. And naturally, shit you gotta work on is never on the outside layer. But holy shit, that's worse than I thought. I do not know how that was even, that was destined to go. Seems like there was another one in here somewhere, but maybe it was just that one. Yeah, it was starting to split there. Splitting there. But yeah, that one's scary. That could have been a bad day. The thrasher belt is the same one we put on it when I got it, and it's got a hunk taken out right there, but it's not cracked. That shit happens when I get into mud and I start spinning. This thing will, these ricing canes will throw mud up in there, and you get a hunk of mud or something stuck in there with a rock or a stone, it'll do that. But if the belt's not cracking, it'll run just fine. That's no big deal. Because these power bands are some tough sons of bitches. But anyway, now I get to fish that thing back in there. And I'll be the first to tell you, the variable speed on the 525, 535, 545 fucking sucks. They were kind of a terrible design to begin with, because the piston leaks real bad, because originally they had an O-ring in them. When we got this, we put an O-ring in it. That lasted not very long, so we tried a quad ring. Quad ring didn't last very long, so we ended up remachining the seal groove in this half of the pulley to accept a piston seal. And that made it better, but as you can see, that's kind of starting to get wet again, and the quad ring in the manifold must be getting weak, because when I was jostling this around, the weep hole started to drip a little bit. But what I'd eventually like to do is cut or find a 7300 parts combine and cut all this shit off of the 7300 and convert it over to a 7300 variable speed, which would mean I need the bell housing and the front pulley too. And I would need the frame off the 7300, I think, because I think it's wider. But when they got to the 7300, they revamped the entire thing, and it's 10 times the variable speed system that this one is. These ones, I'm going to tell you right now, this variable speed is junk. It gets the job done, but it is junk. So yeah. Actually, what would be neat is to make this thing a hydro. But you're getting into some very serious work. And I also want to get a 283 out of a 1655 one of these days and drop in it and make it a diesel, but again, more pipe dreams. So anyhow, I'm going to stuff that belt back in there and get this all buttoned up. Well, here we are swinging by the local parts department. 545 is just so much bigger, god damn. It's even bigger than a 7300. I mean, obviously, it's about the same size as a 600. Yeah, the same width as a 7600, roughly. So, you know, it makes sense. But you just drive a 525 all day, and then you walk behind one of these things, and it's like, holy cow, this thing's massive. Because a 525 cylinder is only like this. But anyway, this one's even got the early version of Oliver's quick attach, or well, their first attempt at a quick attach. Basically, they had these big long guides that you could basically just run into the head, and it would self-center. And if you were cocked one way or the other, they had these big arms that you hooked on these draw bolts with a wrench, and you literally sucked the head back into the machine. And then on the bottom of the head, there was a saddle that bar would run into to pick the head up and down. So, still wasn't as nice as an actual quick attach, but it's still better than the system that I got. I wish he'd just sell me this combine so that I could gut it for everything that's still decent on it and scrap the rest of it, because I mean, there's no saving it. All the sheet metal's rusted. It's got rust holes in the side of the machine itself. The grain pan's rusted out. There's no saving her, but the final drives are good. I'm sure there's probably still some augers in it that are good. It's got some decent cab glass in it. Hydraulic valves are probably still good. The rear axle's good, which the rear axle would be wider than mine, but the 525, I've seen people, I don't know if it was an option or if people just wanted them, that would put the wider axle on a 525 so that the front and rear axle tracked in the same tire tracks, which made it nicer in mud. Because right now the rear axle is like a foot or so narrower than the front axle. So if you get into mud, the rear axle tries to fall into one tire track and you drive through the field sideways. And it'd be nice. This auger is not savable whatsoever, but if I got, like I said in an earlier video, if I got the hinge and stuff to put on the 7300 and made a new auger tube and took all the bracketry and shit off of this and welded it on the new tube and made a new auger, this would dump into a semi, because it's got that's what that auger's for. And I've already peeked in here, and this walker, other than the fact that it's covered in coon shit, which is going to be nice getting out of there, this walker appears to be okay. So I don't see any live critters, luckily. The inside of this thing is just massive. Holy cow. Because a 525 is 3 walkers, and then a 35 was 4 walkers, and then the 45 got the 5th walker. But anyway, I am going to hopefully get this thing out of here. And with any luck at all, it's not going to be all rusted out or cracked. and that will go in the 525. Well, that was a chore. All the walkers had rust growing in between them, and once I got the bearings out, I had to drag that thing out with a ratchet strap because I couldn't pull it by hand. Oh lordy, I'm hot. But this one ain't perfect. There's a crack there. Actually, looks like this one's been fixed at one point. So there's a weld right through there. And then they laid a piece of strap steel in here. And then obviously, this one suffered the same fate as mine. They blew that front grate out. Somebody welded some expanded metal in there, which they actually did a really nice job, but I'm still going to cut that out of there and weld some of that grate back in. And then the floor in it is a little thin right through here, but this one's a lot more solid than the one that I got. So between this one and my junk one, should have enough parts to fix all three and make 3 good walkers. So I guess I've about had it for today. That one laying inside that steam box, I'm sure breathing in all that coon shit probably gave me the COVID. So wowzers. Anyway, I think I'm gonna run this home and get tools and stuff put away and assess the situation, and we'll hit it again tomorrow. So that's it for this one. We'll catch y'all on the next one.